Olá, meus amigos, tudo bem? Estou aqui com o grande ilustre James Fox. Nós estamos aqui no último dia de gravação aqui no Brasil e nós iremos fazer uma entrevista com ele sobre suas experiências e a gravação deste documentário aqui no Brasil. Hello, James, how are you?
Good to see you, Marco.
Good to see you. Thank you very much for everything.
I think I'm the one thanking you.
Yes.
We're just at the end of the most amazing month in Brazil, probably of my career. And I always say that when Marco and I get together, magic happens, and that was certainly the case with this month in Brazil.
Thank you very much, James. And then now let's start the interview.
Okay, let's go. So, 27 years ago, I set out to make the definitive documentary film on the topic of UFOs. And I did one film in the 90s called UFOs 50 Years of Denial. Sold that to Discovery Channel. I was disappointed. I didn't achieve the goal. I wanted to create a body of evidence on the topic of UFOs that could be mainstreamed. It could be presented in a way to mainstream that sounded credible, because there is some incredibly compelling evidence to suggest we're not alone. But there's also a lot of noise. I call it noise. But if you can hone in on just that 10 or 15% of incredibly compelling evidence, then I think you could have a very successful film. And I did that. I attempted to create the seminal documentary, feature-length documentary on the topic of UFOs. I tried for the first film, 50 Years of Denial. Then I tried with Out of the Blue, pretty good film. Then I did Out of the Blue Director's Cut, spent a couple more years on that. Then I did another film with Leslie Kane called I Know What I Saw, two-part, two-hour special for the History Channel, A&E. But I never really felt satisfied. You know, when you have a concept in your mind and you set out to achieve that, and then ultimately the realization is, are you satisfied? And I never was. And so I kept pushing harder and trying to learn from my previous mistakes and what I could do to create a better film. And then I took all of those things that I'd learned from the past and created the phenomenon, which took me almost 8 years from concept to completion. And I'm very, very proud of that body of work. It's done incredibly well in the United States. It's still making its way out into the world. We had a wonderful distribution plan in place with movie theaters in the United States, and I borrowed money to create a Dolby 5.1 surround mix for the theaters. And then of course COVID hit and that all got shut down. So yeah, that's still getting out there, and while that's happening, I had come with you, Marco, on a number of occasions to Brazil to investigate the Varginha case. And that was supposed to be featured in the phenomenon, but quite honestly, I just couldn't. There was so much to the Varginha case, I couldn't shrink it down to a small enough section, and so ultimately none of it made it in the film, the phenomenon. And so we're doing here, with all of your amazing research and help, we're doing a film dedicated to just the Varginha UFO incident.
Yeah, that's so nice. So now I would like to know, how did you feel when you arrived here almost 10 years ago, and we had a couple of witnesses?
Well, I think if I talked about the most impressive, I'd have to kill you. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I don't know how much we're going to reveal on this one, but I would say everyone we met with had a significant piece of the puzzle. I don't say significantly big, but it was a piece of the puzzle that created a bigger picture. And from the civilian witnesses The girls, incredibly compelling. Just no question in my mind those girls are telling the truth. No question. The mother, Louisa, we met with some new military witnesses, some of which will remain nameless. Incredibly compelling, incredibly compelling. The doctor, Cesario, who worked on Marco Trevise's sister, Marta. Our encounter with Eric Lopes. I mean, that was a scene right out of a movie. I mean, it's like, I'll never forget that moment. I'd heard so much about Eric Lopes, and then seeing him in the window looking at us was an incredibly powerful moment. I could tell that he had been shouldering the burden of this story for 26 years, and it was weighing on him. It had really taken a toll on him. To me, it looks like he really wants to tell the truth, and I just don't know what the military people said to him, but that guy is shouldering a burden of secrecy that's really weighing on him. That was very, very profound moment for me. You know, people criticize us like for, you know, you can't just roll up on a witness like that. But my response is everything else has been tried. Marta's family, Marco Trevise's family, I've talked with them, have tried to get a statement from him. He's been absolutely, completely unavailable to everybody at every possible turn, no matter who tries to knock on his door, quietly go see him, or talk to his wife. It's just not happening. And this was the only way that he could have what I call plausible deniability. In other words, he didn't invite us there. He didn't violate his security oath by making whatever statement he made to us. He told us to leave. He did exactly what he was told to do. So honestly, I think that doorstepping Eric Lopes was pretty much the only option left. So.
Perfect. Now we have some questions here from the Hangar 18 podcast. In general terms, what do you think about or feel about this case?
You know, if you approached the average citizen, no matter where, and said, hey, do you believe a UFO crashed and aliens survived and were walking around a town in broad daylight, I think everyone would look at you and assume that you need to up the dose of your medication, because it's such a fantastic story, and it's hard to imagine how that event could take place and the whole world not know about it. But this is my fourth time here, and I'm not out here chasing rainbows. I'm convinced that something truly otherworldly took place here in Virginia. And I would like to have more solid connection between the crash site and the beings, but I think we made some progress on that on this trip.
In your research, did you manage to discover any news clues about it?
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yes, we broke new ground with Marco. Marco has been incredibly persistent and so grateful for all Marco's efforts. Absolutely couldn't do it without him. No way. And it's been I always say when Marco and I get together, magic happens, and magic definitely happened on this trip.
Thank you, James. And how do you think this incident in Virginia is seen internationally?
I think 5 years ago, people would think you're out of your mind. I really do. Because it's just too unbelievable. You know, having live alien, like, how could that possibly have been covered up? But, and I'm just gauging this from my own research and reactions I've had from people around me for the last 27 years, people are actually like, this is starting to pique their interest. Like, well, you know, if James is over there taking it seriously, gosh, we want to know more. And I think, you know, the Pentagon coming forward, talk of crash and retrieval of bodies and materials, I think the public is much more open to the possibility of it today than they were even just a few years ago.
Do you have any idea when this documentary will be realized?
Yeah, probably March of next year, March of 2022.
So can you tell us a little bit about Eric Lopes?
Yes, I have, ever since meeting Marta the first time, and chasing Marta down was quite a story. We were like literally knocking on doors and approaching strangers in the street. I mean, it was, quite funny. But Marta agreed to meet with, we found her, and she agreed to meet with us. And she was just begging me to go and try and contact Eric Lopes. I mean, at the time, like 8 years ago. And so it's been on my mind for a while. I wanted to track this guy down because he clearly has a significant piece of the story. But everyone I talked to said that Eric won't talk with anyone, and every single attempt has been futile. And this time around, we met with the former police sergeant because the mayor, Senor Verge, made some phone calls on our behalf and connected us with a local politician, Homolo.
Yeah.
And Homolo has known Eric Lopes since they were children. I mean, since the 80s. And so he agreed to take us to Eric's house. And like, anyone who wants to criticize the fact that we doorstepped him, fair enough, but I'll tell you, there was no other option. Eric's not going to meet with anybody, not even the family of Marco Teresi, so why the hell would he meet with me? So we doorstepped him. And I think the statement we got from him is going to be well worth our efforts. And I don't think that the military is going to come after him at all because he was doorstepped. He did not cooperate with us. He didn't want to cooperate with us. He told us to leave, and he threatened to shoot us all a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you notice any strange movements or where you stopped by politicians or police during the filming in other experiences that you have filming?
I only had a couple of weird encounters when I was investigating a case back in 2009 in Texas, Stephenville, Texas. There was some weird stuff going on out during that time. People were spooked, myself included.
Wow.
But no, I mean, people say, oh, you've got men in black shit. No, I've never had that. I've talked to a lot of witnesses who have, and I believed, but I haven't. Yeah. I mean, I'm not stupid. I'm sure that they're paying attention to what I'm doing because I'm certainly stirring up the pot back in the United States, that's for sure. Mm-hmm.
Do you think the American and Brazilian governments may have worked together to stifle or bury this case?
Yes. I believe that the Americans were involved. I suspected that, but everyone I spoke with, that was one of the questions right out of my mouth. Like, where did this stuff go? Where did the debris go? Were the Americans involved? And just about everyone across the board said, Os Estados Unidos.
Yeah.
It was like, okay. Yeah, and then I think there's more information that's coming out right now. I'm a radar controller who watched a plane come in on January 22nd into Campinas.
Yeah.
So that again bolsters the position that the U.S. government did get involved.
Yeah.
I don't think any researcher or any politician, I hate to sound pessimistic, but I don't anticipate any release of any of the bodies or the debris. I mean, that would just be a monumental move on behalf of the governments, particularly the U.S. government. I just don't anticipate that happening. I think that we raise the level of awareness among the population enough to the point where they can no longer deny, but them actually releasing that hard, boy, that'd be a tough call. And they have egg all over their face. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know. I'd like to see it happen. And I'll do everything I can to put as much pressure on as I possibly can, but I don't even know who's in possession of this stuff. I don't even know who could even get access to it. It's probably in the private sector. I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know.
What were the biggest challenges is doing this research?
Raising money and getting high-level government targets like military and government officials to meet with me. Those are very, very challenging things to do. I know there's controversy swirling around just about any witness, but spending time with Carlos de Souza, going to the site with him, spending the better part of 2 weeks with him, getting to know him, and very impressive. I would say that if he's lying, he deserves an Oscar. We don't need Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio anymore, because that guy put on the most amazing performance I've ever seen. That guy saw something, and then we had it validated in the field by a military guy who was stationed at EZA. So that 99.9%, I'm all in on Souza. Would I love a photograph of the debris field? You're damn right I would. But I don't have that.
Yeah. What do you tell for the people which don't believe and they didn't spend enough time with Carlos?
Yeah. Well, I'm serious. I think we spent probably 2 weeks with Carlos. Dinners, breakfasts, hikes, swimming, really getting to know him and talking to him about the impact and seeing him at the site after 26 years. He was profoundly moved by that experience and still is today. I'd say, again, I know I just said this, but if he's lying, he deserves an Oscar. Remind you one more thing is that we didn't pay him. We didn't pay him when we covered his expenses and stuff, and bus fares and food, but he wasn't asking for book deals or movie deals or money deals, and he didn't come looking for us. You, Marco, found him, and you got him to come forward. It wasn't like he was looking for this. He was quite happy, just probably never speaking about it ever again.
And we had a really great report from kind of military from the EZA.
Yes.
And
Military X.
Yeah.
This guy was there, and this guy saw the body, and there's no question about it. Yeah, he was. And funny, I was gauging the level of interest from our audio guy Guy, and he, even with the girls, he was like, it's interesting, but And when he heard that guy, he said, 100%. There's not a shred of doubt in my mind that military guy experienced what he experienced. Yeah, they absolutely. I mean, we've heard what they've said to the witnesses. We've heard firsthand. I mean, we met with them, but evidence is a whole new level. They do not. Whoever covered the story up doesn't want this stuff coming out. Okay. So all I can say is that we have located a couple potential pieces of evidence and offered a significant financial contribution for compensation for it. Yeah.
Now,
that's about it.
About the footage that you saw in Nevada, and then can you tell us a little bit how happened and
Yes.
how was this?
Yeah, well, if anyone wants a really detailed account, I did it on Logan Paul's show in Los Angeles. So if you look up James Fox on Logan Paul. But I will tell you, I was doing my first documentary in the 90s. It was like probably 94, 95, something like that. 94, 95. And I was interviewing a guy that was based, Chuck Clark. He had lived in a trailer, double wide, retired military guy out at Area 51. In the outskirts, he wasn't on the base. Anyway, I got to know him. He had a couple of experiences out in the night sky with the telescope and the binoculars, and we just kind of got to know each other. And probably after maybe 6 months, maybe even a year, when I first met him, he called me up, and I lived about 10 or 12 hours away from where he was living. He lived in Nevada. I was in California. He called me up, and he was like, "James, I got something you got to see." And I said, "What is it?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not going to tell you, but I will tell you, when you see it, your jaw is going to hit the floor." So this is not the kind of guy that is, filled with hyperbole or sensational. He's a pretty grounded, pragmatic guy. So I jumped in my car and drove to Nevada. Got to his house. When I got there, he took a VHS tape, popped it in the machine, pressed play, and there were two guys just goofing off, driving on a road trip from LA to Area 51, and they were posing next to the signs, and they went to the little alien, and just typical road trip, driving, having fun, listening to music. And then all of a sudden the car is stopped, and it's off the road like dirt, and the camera is filming the dashboard, and you can't see it, but it sounds like the people in the car are trying to crawl under the seats. Like they're trying to crawl under the seats. They're, get down, it's over the top of us, get down. And the camera is filming, like you have a seat here, steering wheel here, and the camera is like placed on the armrest, and it's slightly filming the dashboard and the windshield. And all of a sudden you see a light source. Like if you can imagine, if this was a light coming down, the light was going like this.
Wow.
Because inside the car, the shadows were moving like this. You never seen anything like it.
Wow.
And it was eerie. It was like a Steven Spielberg movie, moving like this, really soft, quiet, and smooth and fluid, just like this. And one of the kids says, "I'm getting out. I'm gonna get out. No, don't get out. He takes the camera, opens the door, puts the camera right about the height of a telephone pole or a street lamp. You could hit it with a rock. There was this perfect disc. Absolutely the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And it was like a yellowy orange, and the skin of this disc was glowing like it was alive.
Wow.
And it was just wobbling like this. Sorry, mosquitoes. It was wobbling just like this, like just floating. Like if you imagine a ship on the water, just like this. And I thought to myself, all the witnesses that I've talked to that have seen these things try to describe the technology, the way they perform that. And I could see why they were at a loss for words, because you're looking at something that's just, it's so far outside conventional propulsion that you just can't believe what you're looking at. And that's what it was.
Was
perfect disc.
like a jellyfish or like?
Yeah, kind of like yes, you could say that kind of, yeah. It was like a yellowy orange. Yeah. And then he just goes, "Oh my God," like this, and then the camera shuts off.
Oh my God.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And I saw it I saw it with these eyes. Yep.
Yeah.
I'd say that this is my 28th year investigating, making films around the world on the topic. I started in the mid-90s, 93, 94. And I'm just as baffled today as I was then. I don't have any more answers other than knowing that there are people in positions of power, control, governments, that have the definitive proof that we need, but I don't believe in it. Researchers can argue with me and say that I'm wrong, and that's fine. But I don't believe the governments have the answers. They know that we're not alone. They know these things are real. They know there are beings. They know there are craft. But they probably don't know who they are, where they come from, or what they want. That's just my personal take on it.
Thank you very much, my brother, and congratulations.
Hey, thank you, Marco. Couldn't have done it without you, baby.
Yeah.
Excellent. Bye, everybody. We'll hear all about it. It's an exciting moment.
Yes. Bom, nós estamos aqui com o Carlos de Souza, que foi uma das testemunhas que no dia 13 de janeiro de 1996